I was interested in UFOs since I was a little kid. Growing up in Hudson Valley, you had no choice but to know about UFOs. The stories were always in the newspaper. But I seriously got interested about 5 years ago. After I'd give a lecture, people would come up to me about their UFO stories. And I realized there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this area. And I started researching and got hooked immediately, and still doing it now, and no plans to stop.
I like to look at UFOs. I've learned about them for many, many years, and now I'm the Mutual UFO Network's chief photo and video analyst, which is, it's the epitome, I guess, of being a UFO investigator. You reach a point where you're someone that people look to help explain things.
We cannot be the only thing in the universe. The first time I saw a UFO was 1983, and I was sitting in my living room off of Route 6, and I was looking out my window, and I could see something coming across the sky. It was pitch black out, and there was no moon or anything, and you just saw it. It just went right over my head, and it was the shape of a boomerang, and the first thing that caught my attention were the lights. The lights were all different colors underneath this very large, slow-moving object.
Most people see lights in the sky, or triangles, or discs, or cigar-shaped objects. Pine bush is unique because people see things coming up out of the ground. There's a very famous case where two very credible men saw what they described as a Ferris wheel of lights rising up out of the ground through the trees and then going back into the ground with no trace. The other interesting thing, which I have heard dozens and dozens of times, there was an opening, a red light or craft came out, took off, was gone a short time, came back, went inside, the opening closed, and the object sped away.
The possibility that we're the only ones in the universe on a little rock living here is unfathomable.
Ezekiel, the wheel within the wheel, was that a possible sighting at the time by those who were present? It's very possible. There could be these indicators. Now, have I seen any physical proof undisputable yet? No.
I'm setting an example of how we should look at data coming in. Are we going to look at this data? Are we going to just accept it for what it is? Or are we going to be critical and be critical thinkers? That's something missing. Critical thinking.
I think Pine Bush, the reason why Pine Bush has so much paranormal activity has to do with the ley lines that run underneath Pine Bush. There are these ley lines that run all over the globe that are energy lines.
There have been newspaper reports from the 1800s of strange lights or objects, and you can't really tell what they're about. You try to explain it rationally, you try to look for any excuse, but when you can't find one scientifically or otherwise, I'm left with UFO. If you know anything about UFOs in the Hudson Valley, you've probably heard about Pine Bush. Hundreds of people from around the tri-state area would drive there just about any night of the week and line the streets, stand in the old farmers' fields, and it became rather annoying to the populace.
As far as the activity here in Pine Bush, there are still a lot of people involved. You have individuals like Bill Wyan, who hold monthly meetings in regards to experiences or sightings. And we have the big UFO fair every year, third Saturday in May every year. This year, a few months ago, we had 7,000 people attend. And it seems that there's more people coming from outward into the community. So it looks like it's expanding.
A debunker is someone who doesn't believe and just wants to just totally wipe it off the map as possibly believable. That's not what I do. I'm not a debunker. I'm an explainer. If I can't explain it, all the better. That's what I want. So how often do I actually see those? Every case I get, for the first 10 seconds or so is unexplainable.
I actually spoke with the state director of MUFON, who said 2 years ago they actually went to Pine Bush and they discovered an area, a field behind someone's home that had 6 times the normal radiation levels.
And this just occurred in August of 2015. Searsville Road was really ground zero where everybody gathered. And this occurred on Searsville Road behind a housing development they've put up there. There was still a field there, and a family saw a large circular object. It didn't land, but it was hovering just above the ground. So they reported it to MUFON, and he found in this field, you can see where the grass is broken. It's not crushed to the ground, but it was all broken at the same height for one large circular area. And the other thing is he had a Geiger counter, and within just that circle, the radiation levels were 6.5 times normal. If he walked 6 feet away, it went down to 0. And every time he returned to that circle, there were high radiation levels. So you tell me what can hover above the ground, bend the grass, and leave a radiation trace.
I was introduced to the Hudson Valley sightings by someone at a magazine who called me and said, I have a state trooper here that has a photograph that was taken of a UFO over the highway. So I went down, met him, got the picture, and sure enough, it was a little ring of lights, which was really odd looking to me. People were getting out of their cars and stopping in the middle of the highway to look at this thing. It slowly went over the house. And then an airline pilot called that magazine and said that she saw something too. And then the magazine called me and said, I got another person that said they saw something. You want to talk to her? I go, sure. I saw this thing outside. It was a ring of lights. It was going over my house very slowly. And some small lights were dropping out of it and then moving really fast. And then they came back and joined it later. Then I started to hear all the explanations from people who were quote-unquote in the know. Saying things like, oh, they were just guys with ultralights flying with lanterns hanging from their ultralights. You know, they're out of Stormville, New York. That wouldn't be the case if they were ultralights. And the people that were on the highway, other witnesses said it couldn't possibly be that either. So that was my entry level into the UFO field as a real investigator. That was my first case I ever looked at. And I was just astonished.
I remember one older woman said to me, I didn't ask to see this thing, but I saw it, and, I don't appreciate people ridiculing me for it. So clearly, millions of people have seen UFOs for hundreds of years. So let's find out what it is rather than make a ridiculous blanket statement, they don't exist. That's false. UFOs exist, whether they're alien, military, or whatever, that's the other question. But don't tell all these people that they did not see what they know they saw.